Okay, good morning. Please forgive my beeping smoke alarm in the background. From about 3 o'clock in the morning forward, it's been a very evident issue. Uh, at any rate, I want to talk about Senate Bill 2124, which seems to be causing a lot of discussion. Senate Bill 2124 came out of the last legislative session, is now finishing up in the rulemaking process at the TEA, and this is what we call the advanced math bill. And all things considered, it's actually a pretty good effort at common sense lawmaking for a laudable purpose, which is to increase access to advanced math courses for Texas students. We all think that's a good thing. Uh, let's talk about what the bill basically does. The bill basically creates a presumption and requirement of initial enrollment in advanced math for students who are essentially, say, in the top 40% on various assessment instruments. And note that I say various, not STAAR. The bill is written in such a way, and the implementing rules are written in such a way that obviously the schools are going to be administering STAAR. So if you score in the 60th percentile or higher on STAAR, you're to be automatically enrolled in the advanced math program. This is for fifth graders. The idea is get the kids into the advanced math early so when they get to high school, they're prepared for, whether it's dual credit, early college, algebra in eighth grade, calculus as a senior. The idea is laudable to put kids that have that aptitude into a more challenging environment and accelerate their learning. Fantastic. So if you're in the 60th percentile or higher, essentially top 40% on STAR, you are automatically enrolled in the advanced math. And likewise, and this is very important, the district is required to offer a non-STAR local assessment. And if you score in the top 40% of that assessment, you're also required to be enrolled into the advanced math class. Now, what is particularly notable about this bill is it respects parents' rights. If a parent does not want their child in advanced math, they have an absolute right to say, no, put them in grade level math. This is a positive. I mean, all things all all things considered, this is actually a pretty good effort at lawmaking from our Texas legislature and a pretty good effort at rulemaking from the TEA. They are using both of the measures. They are not making one exclusive or one having priority. They're not limiting the use of one or the other. It's a good effort. And they're not cramming it down the parents' throats because they let the parents say, no, we're the parent. We want our child at this level. School doesn't get to override our parental decisions. We opt out of the advanced math. Fantastic. This is a good bill. So why am I making this video? I'm making this video because what happens to almost every good piece of legislation in this state of Texas, and a lot of the bad ones as well, is when this gets to the local district for implementation, remember, this group does not buy into the blame the state and the TEA for everything. We know darn well that as many, if not more, problems with STAAR and its implementation arise out of the local level as arise out of the state legislature or TEA. So when a good piece of legislation like this arrives at the local school level, it should be very easy to implement. Look, who's our 60th percentile and higher in STAR? They're enrolled. What's our local assessment going to be? Who's the top 40%? If there's anybody that's top 40% on this that wasn't top 60% or higher in STAR, then into advanced math they go. Parents want out, okay, they're out. This is easy. This is easy. But enter the local administrators. And we have seen multiple instances now of administrators who are reading this bill as not an expansion of advanced math opportunities, the way the legislature intended it, but as a restriction, as a entry-level barrier to advanced math. It is asinine. Nothing in the bill says that a district can't enroll other students on a non-automatic, non-mandatory basis into advanced math if they want to. In fact, we've seen districts that have historically had an open enrollment policy towards advanced math classes now say that because of the Senate bill, you cannot take advanced math unless you scored 60th percentile or higher in STAAR. And they even pretend that the 40% local assessment doesn't exist. There is nothing in the bill that suggests that. That is the precise opposite purpose of this bill. This bill was written to expand the opportunities for advanced math, not to limit or eliminate access for any students. There is no way that that interpretation can be reconciled with the intent of the bill. But here we have it. It's not a one-off thing. Multiple districts are looking at parents and saying, this is how you get into advanced math. You must do X, Y, and Z. Even districts that previously had open enrollment are pulling that back and saying, if you're not top 40%, no advanced math for you. Asinine. There is nothing in the law that even begins to suggest that. Look, if a district had a really restrictive policy in the past, like, oh, you have to master STAAR, and then this makes them open that up, great. They could do more, but great. At least that's been accomplished. But when I'm looking at districts that have historically had an open enrollment policy, and now they don't, and now they say, because of the bill, one of two things is happening. Either they're getting really horrible legal advice on how to read a simple piece of legislation, or, and I think this is more likely, they're not bothering to ask. They're looking at this and going, oh, look, this just made my job easier. I don't have to do any thinking. I don't have to have standards. I don't have to, process requests from parents. I don't have to counsel parents whose kids really might not be ready for it. I don't have to deal with schedule changes the next semester if a kid is put into it by open enrollment and isn't ready for it. I'm just going to say, this is it, top 40%, wash my hands of it. So in doing that, though, what they're doing is the exact opposite of what the legislature intends, which is, to increase access. They've actually restricted access. So what does this mean for you, the parent? Number one, many districts are telling parents that the entire entry process is via STAAR. That's false. There is a local assessment that is named in this, that is outlined in the statutory process and is required under the rules that are being adopted. Now, those rules probably aren't going to be effective until next year. So for this year, you're just going to have to work on persuasion. My advice is this. Flood your freaking school boards and let them know what their administrators are doing, because I guarantee you this is not coming from the school board. This is coming from some petty tyrant bureaucrat who thinks they know more than anyone else and this is the way it's going to be. But also, call your legislators, call their office and let them know what districts are doing, because they can put amendments on this in the next session to make it clear that this does not prohibit open enrollment, or what have you. But someone needs to know this stuff is going on, because it's absolutely outrageous. If I had looked at that bill, I mean, maybe I should have, but I wouldn't have looked at it and said, oh my gosh, districts are going to use this against kids. I would have thought, great, this is how a well thought out policy should actually be done. You get some standards, they're not exclusive to one assessment, and you let the parents, say no to it. What more could we ask? And you don't limit. What more could we ask? But sure enough, it gets into the local hands, and they just flat out say, no, this is all of it. And, really, I don't know we're going to get any help from the TA. I mean, they might answer and say, well, it's not a limitation. But more often than not, they're just going to say that's a local decision. And in a way it is, as long as they're compliant with the statute. But it's not the purpose. And for districts that are going backwards, they need to be called out on this. Why would you possibly go backwards because the legislature passed a bill intended to encourage other districts to be more open in their advanced math courses? Don't get it, but kind of par for the course, I'm afraid. So that's my 10 minutes on Senate Bill 2124. Just know if your district tells you if you don't take STAAR, you can't get in advanced math, that's a lie, because there's a local assessment option. If they tell you you have to be top 40% to get in advanced math because of the Senate bill, that's a lie, because again, the bill doesn't contain any such limitation. All right. Well, hey, have a great weekend.